Hey everybody, it's Swift Streams PC, and on this podcast episode, we're going to talk about the SAG-AFTRA strike, the strike that's going on with the writers and the actors now that has completely shut down Hollywood because basically unfair wages. They want to use AI to basically, use people's likeness without paying them forever. So it's like you got all these crazy things going on, and they're like, no, we want to be paid fair wages. Some of these people, they not making a lot of money. Hell, some of them not even making as much as I do, and I'm a blue collar worker or whatever. And I was looking into this stuff also because I wanted to get into acting, and I wanted to know like how much do actors make. And you have actors who are on these TV shows who, to be honest, they barely even making 40 and 30K from filming some of your favorite TV shows. And then going to the writer's side, a writer could write a really cool, neat show, and then they want to get paid and can't get paid after the show done made all millions and millions of dollars or whatever off of like merch and everything else. So we're gonna talk about all of that and all of the juicy stuff that's been going on, because now there's a lot of stuff back and forth between CEOs, between actors, the Writers Guild coming out and saying different things, what they're saying. So in this episode, we're going to cover that, and let's get into it. So the first thing we're going to start with is the Stephen Amell situation. He was one of the guys that voted against having a strike, and then he came out and made some comments because he was like, look, I don't want to strike. I think it's dumb. I think it doesn't help the situation. I guess he feels like we should still be working while at the same time trying to negotiate better terms and things with Hollywood, but Hollywood has consistently been taking advantage of all their workers, and enough is enough. So everybody said, screw it, that's at the top, let's vote and let's go in and show them we mean business. So with him, he shouldn't have made these comments when he made them. The comments should have been really made before the strike, but like I said, we'll get into that with this article on TMZ. Stephen Amell explains why he hit SAG picket line after strike comments now. So he's retracting back some of his stuff that he was into, but let's go ahead and listen to that.
Listen, just want to chat real quick. So we saw your comments on the SAG strike, then we see you on the picket lines.
Yeah.
What's changed for you since? And listen, a lot of people agree with you just because it's hard for people to go on strike and not be able to work. So you're really not alone in that whole thought process. But what has changed for you? Because you did a 180.
Well, I think when I spoke the first time, I didn't choose my words as carefully as I should.
Got it.
I love acting, I love film, and I love television. And I know how much going on strike hurts. Mm-hmm. Not just the actors, but all the people who work on film and television.
You're right. Yeah.
Writers, of course, who've done strike for over 100
Catering,
years.
the grits,
You name it.
all of it. Yeah. And the economy that's built around it, the restaurants, the hotels.
The city that I live in.
Yeah.
So I always say that I support my union. I said that I don't support the strike. That was the wrong choice of words.
Got it.
Plain and simple.
Yeah.
I put my foot in my mouth, trying to take ownership of it.
Sure.
I knew that some people that I worked with were going to be on the picket lines on Friday. I was in New York to support Colin Donald. Sure. I worked with for several years. He helped me out to my show. And it felt like a good time to go on the picket line.
Yeah, good. All right.
I'll be on it again.
Are you going to join it out here in LA?
I hesitate to say that I did a 180, or that I just should have spoken more clearly.
I see.
And concisely the first time around.
How did that meeting with SAG go? Did you have that sit down with them?
I had a great chance to talk with Duncan Crabtree Ireland and Pam over there and Beth.
Were they forgiving of your words? Because, you know,
I don't think they were ever particularly mad at me. They liked that I reached out to them.
Sure.
I appreciated that they took the time to talk, because it was basically the day that this all went down, or at least the day that this all sort of hit the news cycle. So it was nice to talk to them. They really educated me, Duncan especially, and Beth as well, on the objectives of the strike, the importance of the strike, because
for everyone to be treated fairly.
Everyone wants to be treated fairly, and I guess what I should have understood before is that no one comes to these decisions lightly. I have been incredibly fortunate, and I should use my position within my union to be a force for my union and not a force for myself.
So as you can see, he basically did a 180. I guess you can say that the union must have, explained to him better what was going on. Because at the end of the day, when you're in these type of situations, the whole purpose of creating this type of organization or whatever, a union, is to make sure that you don't get taken advantage of by the industry that you do business in or that you work in or whatnot. And so unionizing is because these type of industries that require that, they are all about the bottom line. They all about protecting their money, and they all about making money at the lowest cost, right? And so they not gonna want to pay a person they worth, right? That's not even a big actor like him. That's like a small actor that's over here playing in roles like the guy who's eating at the table behind you in the back scene, or the guy doing the lighting over the person that's back there. All of those people need their fair share, and you join the union in order to get that, you know what I'm saying? Because they don't really see you as important, and they gonna treat you as such. They gonna cut you any kind of way they can based off the laws in which you living in. So like another example is here in Georgia, in Atlanta, where I'm at. There's a lot of laws here that allow for these studios to basically undercut actors and not give them their fair share, or have the environment that they can have, that's really helpful, because they don't care, because you're just there just to fulfill one little piece or whatever, just to sit there and just do that and then move on about your day. And The Walking Dead is where I learned all this, because I had a lot of friends that were extras in The Walking Dead, and they were telling me about the conditions there, how you put on all this makeup, it's hot, they're not trying to feed you, they barely trying to pay you, and then they always hiring, and they can pay you cheaply because the minimum wage in Georgia is $7.25, right? And it's at will state, so they can let you go for any reason. So you need a union in these type of situations when they're doing these things, because they're trying to cut the budget or whatever, and they want to maximize what they can with the people they have, because it's not fair in a way, you know what I'm saying? Especially when it's that extreme to the point where like people passing out or whatever. No, but that's like leading up to this situation where they're like, okay, no. Then streaming comes in, right? So streaming came in right around the time that a lot of these film places were going elsewhere to find little loopholes to get stuff done. Now they try to find loopholes to undercut paying the writers and actors in a way, because they're not working on as many shows or for a longer period of time. So they're like, well, if you're not doing as much work, we're going to pay you less. No, I still have mortgage, I still have bills, I still have kids to feed. That doesn't make sense. But yet y'all making billions of dollars. Stephen Amell seems to have changed his tune when it comes to the ongoing SAG-AFTRA strike, first demonstrated in his actions and now further cemented by his own words. The Arrow star spoke to a photo this week, not long after he was spotted out in NYC with other fellow SAG members, hitting the picket line and showing solidarity for his union amid the ongoing negotiation, which have dragged on for about a month or so now. Check out what he has to say. SA says he doesn't believe he's done a 180 on the issue, but rather that he just misspoke at first and now has some clarity on how he feels. What that manifested into, as he notes, is unwavering support for the SAG-AFTRA, something he had since the beginning. And while he did say he didn't support the actor striking, pointing out how hard it was on working actors, he now says he's been educated on the process. This after speaking to SAG leadership, who explained it wasn't done lightly. Stephen Amell doesn't support the SAG-AFTRA, has been actively promoting heel stars during the strike. Stephen Amell can also afford health insurance and thinks people don't know what's going on. So this is the stuff that was going on with him, as far as like he was still promoting his, I don't know if it was a show or a movie on Stars or whatever that he had just did. And so they basically told you, like, within like the contracts or rules of being part of the union or whatever, that you can't promote any movies, TV, or anything dealing with Hollywood. You can't talk about it. You can't even mention his name for real, because all of that basically feeds into people in general going and paying their subscriptions to go to these streaming services. The very same streaming services that are undercutting actors and writers and not paying them their fair share. And also the very same place that is also trying to take advantage of them and say that they want to use your likeness forever and never pay you for it, and let AI be a thing and take a lot of jobs and stuff from people. No. So he was still promoting his stuff on top of also saying what he was saying. So it really wasn't like he knew exactly what he was doing. I'll say that he knew exactly what he was doing. So this is what happened on
and
Twitter.
The ongoing strike that is happening.
Yeah, so I feel like I'm insulated in Hollywood because that's where I live. I literally live in Hollywood, like all the stereotypes that exist. So I feel like a lot of people in this room aren't aware of the strike. I support my union. I do, and I stand with them. I do not support striking. I don't. I think that it is a reductive negotiating tactic. And I find the entire thing incredibly frustrating. And I think that the thinking as it pertains to shows like the show that I'm on that premiered last night, I think that is. I think that it is. I think it's myopic, and I stand with my union.
So that's what he said when he was basically promoting his show on Stars. Now, I didn't really get too deep into what the show was because I don't really rock with Stephen Amell like that for real. Ever since Arrow kind of went downhill, and I was like, this show should have been ended, or they could have done a little more with it. But that's just how I feel about the show, not necessarily him per se. But this rubbed me the wrong way when he was doing what he was doing or whatever, because this is just him he playing both sides. Eventually you have to choose a side, and it caught up to him or whatever. So But you'll recall Stephen Amell got a lot of backlash at first for saying what he said about striking, which was based off of that video as well. But since then, it sounds like the dude has come around to realizing it's for a larger purpose, despite some growing pains people might be experiencing on the ground. Interestingly, what Stephen Amell says here on camera strongly echoes what he told us on TMZ Live a couple of weeks ago when he was trying to put his original remarks in context.
You know, I guess the sentiment of the union seems to be you're in or you're out. And so it sounds like you're kind of on that line that you understand the strike, but you're not necessarily down with it the way other actors are.
I understand the strike on an intellectual level. Striking is not the only form of negotiating. And if there's a positive thing to take away from this, and believe me, Harvey, I'm searching for the positives right now because the past day or so has not been the most fun. If there is a positive here, I would like to think that in some way, shape, or form, I can encourage people to get back to the table and negotiate. I think that, again, one of the silver linings that come out of this is I'm going to get the opportunity later today to speak with SAG leadership, to show them how much I support them and want to stand with them. But just because I agree with, I love my coworkers, I love my wife, and I love my kids very much. That doesn't mean that I always agree with the choices that they make, but I will never, ever leave them in a time of need, and I won't do that to my union.
I know there's been a lot of criticism from the outside. I'm curious whether other actors have contacted you privately to express a similar sentiment.
I've got an extreme amount of support. A lot of people that have reached out. A lot of people that have been quiet, but I woke up this morning to 60 plus text messages from people. I'm not going to say who they are. And they support the union too. They really do. But we live in a time right now, and I don't want to wax too poetic here, where people want you to vote as long as you're voting for their candidate. I think that this has been done in a very black and white, all or nothing sort of way. And I'm talking about shows and movies that were about to come out before the strike. And I'm speaking specifically about shows that, I and a bunch of other people pour their heart and soul into, that happen to be coming out within a certain window after the strike. And, I don't think that some of the consideration that was given to other projects leading up to the strike and the delay of the strike was given to some of the projects that came on the other side. And that's something that retrospectively, I should have done a better job of taking up in private with the leadership of my union. Okay, people that I greatly respect and admire and look forward to talking to.
So now that context seems to be completely understood, and it sounds like he's on the right side of the picket line with his fellow actors. A full circle moment for all involved, it seems. So that was pretty much everything that's been covered as far as like the drama between the union and Stephen Amell. Basically, he jumped the gun and said what he wanted to say. Like I said, didn't really consider the reasoning behind it because he's not a part of the leadership, so he wouldn't know why they decided to go all the way in like the way they did. But now that they have done that, and now that he does see the bigger picture or whatever, now he can understand why they have to fight as hard as they have to fight to get what they're trying to get done. But the thing that I love that he said, though, when he said this, though, to TMZ, is he's trying to get people to the table. Because the main issue that happens when people do strikes or when people go out marching and try to do activism is they ain't at the table after they do that. Like, you have to come to the table and put forth you know what I'm saying, like legislation or rules or demands or whatever it is to let them know this is what we want, and you have to do it through the officiated ways of doing that. And you know, federal, state, city, all these different levels and stuff, hell, corporate policies, whatever that needs to change, you need to hit every single level, every single one, in order to get the change to happen to where legally it is accepted, and then you can create basically this new culture of giving people their fair share. It doesn't necessarily mean that everybody's going to win, but at least when you go and do something, it's fair. Right now, the stuff that's going on is not fair, right? Which means that even the people with big dollars and actors and stuff are even at risk of some of the Hollywood stuff that they're trying to do. Not just the small ones. They were at risk. And when it came to like writers and everything, they was wide open since the 90s when that stuff was going on. When they had the first one leading up to some changes happening during the TV era. This is before streaming, during the TV era. And so, or was it 2000? It was somewhere around there. So all this stuff is just a melting pot of things that may have not been checked back then, but now it's getting checked now because new things are happening. It made it even more exploitative. And he understands that that is why they're trying to fight, because things have changed. It's not the same environment that all these same people were in years ago, to where they could let some of this stuff just go and then like work with them. It ain't no working with them no more. You got to get on that line and tell them this is what we stand for. And like he said, come to the table and negotiate and come to some type of compromise. I, the consumer and podcaster and stuff, I'm suffering right now because I have nothing to talk about. Literally, this is the only thing I could find to talk about outside of the Montgomery, Alabama brawl. And literally, we have nothing to talk about because nothing new's coming out. Everything's getting delayed, and they can't promote the movie. So even if I go to a comic convention like I'm supposed to go to in a couple weeks, there are people who are either not showing up. The ones that are showing up probably aren't a part of this Actors Guild, so they may or may not be in solidarity with these actors. You know what I'm saying? From SAG, especially if they're from like Canada or like the United Kingdom. They have specific laws in the United Kingdom that stops them from striking. Now they have better actors and they have a better organization when it comes to building up actors and pushing out some of the best actors you'll ever meet in your entire life, because that's the part of their market. They need that to bring that money back to the UK. You know what I'm saying? Because the UK is not big enough to really be a big, you know, distributor of industry goods and stuff like that. So they have to focus, just like Japan and a couple of other countries that's surrounded by water. They have to focus more on entertainment and negotiations and those type of things to get the resources they need for their island. You know what I'm saying? For their small country. So that's just what it is. Like here is a little different. Like I said, we on the mainland, so things are just different, and I hope that all of this gets worked out. But we have more news because things have gotten so bad now. Now things are actually starting to run its course, and we're not talking about nothing positive now. You know what I'm saying? We're talking about something that's very detrimental, and it's kind of triggering, especially for somebody like me who's been homeless before. I know how this can be when money gets tight. You could have 3 jobs and still end up in this situation. And so the next thing we're going to talk about is Billy Porter says he's been forced to sell his house due to the strikes. Now, the reason why this is crazy is because basically Hollywood has been saying they're not going to negotiate when they was at the table because they're going to try to basically starve them out. They said that the demands that they have are unrealistic and not fair, and they basically going to be like, okay, well, when you run out of money, first. Whoever runs out of money first loses. So they're like, well, you're going to lose first, and we're going to take it there. And so now that this has happened, stuff is getting real. Like, people losing homes, it's getting real out here. So add Billy Porter to the list of thousands of financially affected by the SAG-AFTRA and WGA strikes, following the revelation that the actor will have to sell his house at an extremely precarious moment for entertainment workers. I have to sell my house because we're on strike and I don't know when we're going to go back to work, said Porter in an interview with Evening Standard in support of his music career. The life of an artist until you make effing you money, which I haven't made yet, is still cliche, I guess you say. I was supposed to be in a new movie and on a new television show starting in September. None of that is happening. So he was supposed to be in a new show. None of that is happening. So the money kind of dried up. You know what I'm saying? Because these actors work like contracts and stuff. So they working basically paycheck to paycheck. And depending on their lifestyle, depending on what they got going on, if they not continuously working, they can end up in this situation. And like I said, when I looked at what actors make, depending on their levels, like you have actors that are making like 30K or less, 50K or less or something like that. And the way this economy is right now, you can't afford to make less than 40K right now. You can't. You're going to struggle. You're going to need another job. So he continued, Porter, with reference to a July Deadline article quoting an anonymous exec on the WGA strike. So the person who said we're going to starve them out until they have to sell their apartments, you've already starved me out. The actor's comments come just under 100 days under the Writers Guild strike against studios and streamers, which wouldn't agree to the terms of the new film and TV contract it has been pursuing. These steps are themselves 26 days into their own labor dispute. Porter highlighted his personal situation in part to dispute a notion of actor strikes among some lay people, that it's simply about a bunch of millionaires trying to get more millions rather than about cementing the financial security of the many in the working class. The actor laminated that while the industry once arrived its deals to allow for its performers to make a decent living, that same prospect has become impossible following the streaming boom. There's no contract for streaming and they don't have to transparent with the numbers. It's not Nielsen's ratings anymore. He explained the streaming companies are notoriously opaque with the viewership figures. The business has evolved, so the contract has to evolve and change, period. I do agree with that. The times change, the way things are being consumed change, the rules need to change, and the way pay and all that stuff works needs to change as well. Porter also aimed in the piece at July 13th comments of Disney CEO Bob Iger, which we're going to talk about that. I have that pulled up and some of the responses that people have with that. Who, while at the Sun Valley conference, called the WGA and SAG-AFTRA unrealistic in their demands, expressing the belief that their steadfast commitment to their deal points has been very disruptive to the industry already weakened by COVID. COVID destroyed Hollywood. They didn't know what to do. They created all these different things to kind of compensate for a loss of having a bunch of people on set. They created these things to get stuff to go to streaming faster than to get them out the movies or whatever, because they thought that subscriber model was going to work to make more money, when in actuality box office makes more money than subscribers. There's only so many subscribers in the world, and then you have password sharing and all these other different things like that. So it's extremely hard to get all of the subscribers when there's just such steep competition and everybody's not going to have enough money to pay for it. And then that makes it expensive, because when you have all these options, because Now you got to put ads in there. If I want to watch TV, I'll just turn on the dang TV. Why do I have to watch ads? Pay for it to have ads on it now, because now you got to pay and get ads because y'all want to compete and get all these subscribers and stuff that just doesn't work. It just doesn't help in general. So to hear Bob Iger say that our demands for a living wage are unrealistic while he makes $78,000 a day, I don't have any words for it, but F you, said Porter. Wow, you really went in. That's not useful, so I've kept my mouth shut. I haven't engaged because I'm so enraged. When I go back to the States from London, I will join the picket lines. Best known for making history at the Emmys as the first openly gay black man to win Drama Lead Actor with Pose, Porter will next be seen starring opposite Luke Evans in custody battle drama Our Son, which world premiered at this year's Tribeca Festival. Also coming up for him is a James Baldwin biopic he'll co-write and star in for Byron Allen's Media Group motion picture, which was announced back in April. So, Billy Porter, not happy, like I said. And on top of that, he had to sell his home. And this is the risk that happens and that everyone is taking by going on strike. And this is just the beginning. We'll be hearing more situations happening if they don't have a deal, if they don't come to the table and agree to something. And from what I'm seeing, it's the bigger studios like Disney and all of that stuff that are causing the most issues when it comes to the type of things that they won't agree to or negotiate or compromise on. So now let's get into this Bob Iger stuff. So, Disney CEO Bob Iger says writers and actors are not being realistic with strikes. It's very disturbing to me. And yeah, we're going to read this article because he said it's very disturbing to him, which is kind of weird because what's unrealistic about paying people fair wages, making sure people get residuals on stuff they created, right? What's so wrong about that? So during an appearance on CNBC's Squawk Box on Thursday morning, Disney CEO Bob Iger said the writers and actors unions going on strike in Hollywood are not being realistic with their expectations. Speaking to CNBC's David Faber from Sun Valley Conference in Idaho, Iger commented on the ongoing Writers Guild America strike and intimate decision for SAG-AFTRA to join them. It's very disturbing to me. We've talked about disruptive forces on this business and all the changes we're facing. The recovery from COVID, which is ongoing, is not completely back. Which, if you've seen these latest phases of Marvel Phase 5, is absolutely trash because that was made during the Bob Chapek era, and that was also during the time when you couldn't get as much people in a room to work on these films, and so you had the mass restrictions and how many people could be on set and all these different things, and the writers as well took a hit because they couldn't get together and do what they needed to do on set, and so everything during that era sucked. Everything. So all these movies that's coming out now and shows and stuff like that, like Secret Invasion, which should have been way better, but it was made during a time when, you know, COVID restrictions and things were messing up everything. And then you had Bob Chapek over here trying to micromanage Kevin Feige and damage control and stuff like that wasn't there. So he couldn't pretty much fix everything, and they were trying to push for streaming too, and that model doesn't work, like I said, and that's caused a lot of issues going forward with everything sucking. And you can even tell though in the writing back then that something was off that maybe the writers weren't trying as hard, because now that we see that there's a strike, I think they were kind of getting hip to the fact of like, hold on, y'all making a lot of money, billions of dollars off of this stuff, and I ain't even seen a cut. You know, people had a lot of time to think during the pandemic. So there's a strong possibility that they were looking at what was going on, how much money they making and how much stuff they were doing to make streaming happening. And they just was like overworked and was like, we're not getting paid enough to do this. And then as you can see, the writing got worse. And it ain't just Marvel. I'm picking on them. It's all media. Hell, Black Adam sucked. A whole bunch of other stuff sucked in the writing. I mean, and it's crazy how all this stuff can happen. But the pandemic made way for all of those issues to start. And then now we fast forward, now people that are woke, they woke up now. Like, we all woke, we know what's going on. It's time to get to work. So this is the worst time in the world to add to that disruption. Iger said, I understand any labor organization's desire to work on behalf of its members to get the most compensation and be compensated fairly based on the value they deliver. We managed as an industry to negotiate a very good deal with the Directors Guild that reflects the value that the directors contribute to the greatest business. We wanted to do the same thing with the writers, and we like to do the same thing with the actors. There's a level of expectation that they have that is just not realistic, and they are adding to the set of challenges that this business is already facing that is, quite frankly, very disruptive. Now, as far as like the directors coming to a deal, that was going to be really easy because they pretty much control everything when it comes to the creative side of things and making sure that the writers and the actors and everybody else involved does their job. So it's kind of like you made a deal with the managers of a company and you're the CEO. No, get out of here. So of course they was going to make a deal easy. Now, it is expected that SAG-AFTRA, the actors union, will go on strike Thursday morning after contract talks concluded late Wednesday night without a resolution. This would effectively halt all scripted film and TV production, much of which had already been delayed due to the ongoing writer strike, which is in its third month. So the writers have already been on strike, and this is their third month. I mean, I don't know when the time of this article was written. I have to look it up. But the writers been on strike before the actors even got in there and everybody else. Because now the VFX artists are going to create a union because they were getting taken advantage of by Hollywood, basically forcing them to overwork themselves to push out movies like all the Marvel movies and shows. So it's a thing. It's just something about them trying to take advantage of folks that ain't organized. So now they getting organized too. And let's see, SAG-AFTRA has not gone on strike in over 4 decades. And the last time both unions were striking concurrently was in the 1960s. Iger said that while he respects the right of the unions to get as much as they possibly can in compensation for their people, they must be realistic about the business environment and what business can deliver. Iger continued, it will have a very, very damaging effect on the whole business, and unfortunately there's a huge collateral damage in the industry to people who are supportive services. I could go on and on. It will affect the economy in different regions even because of the sheer size of the business. It's a shame. It's really a shame. Iger's comments come the day after it was announced that he will remain the CEO of Walt Disney Co. through 2026 instead of stepping down at the end of next year as originally planned. In a shocking move, Iger returned as Disney CEO in November 2022. Less than a year after his initial exit from a 15-year run at the helm, he took over the Bob Chapek with intentions of being to look for a new successor. However, with Disney's numerous internal issues and the need to reinvent its linear TV model, in the streaming age, it was expected within the industry that Iger contracts would be extended. In 2022, Iger's total pay package was $15 million through Chapek, who was paid $24.5 million, was at the helm for the majority of last year. After Iger took over again, it was revealed that he has the potential to earn up to $27 million in 2023, his first full year as returned CEO. Speaking of Disney linear business, which includes broadcaster ABC as well as Caliber's Disney Channel FX, among other, Iger said that it may not be core to Disney when Faber suggests the idea of sale. Iger said the company will remain open-minded and objective about the future of those businesses. There's clearly is content that they create that is core to Disney, but the distribution model, the business model that forms the underpinning of that business and that is delivering great profits over the years is definitely broken. And we have to call it like it is, Iger said. When I come back, one of the things I discovered was that the disruptive forces that have been preying on that business for a while are greater than I thought. It's eye-opening. There's a reality to it that we have to come to grips with. We have to come to grips with it now. Iger also addressed prejudicial, hopeful, and Florida Governor Ron DeSantis' attacks on Disney over the company's opposition to Florida's Don't Say Gay bill. The notion that Disney is in any way sexualizing our children, quite frankly, is presumptuous and inaccurate, Iger said. In April 2022, DeSantis signed a bill eliminating Disney's special independent district status in Walt Disney World. A few years later, Disney sued DeSantis for retaliating against the company's freedom of speech. Faber also asked Iger about the neo-Nazi demonstration that occurred outside of Walt Disney World in June. It was horrifying, quite frankly, and concerning to me that anyone would encourage a level of intolerance or even hate that frankly could even become dangerous action, Iger said. So yeah, that feud between DeSantis and Disney is still going on. DeSantis is just on a crazy rant page right now. Like, he's trying to take down, Black history in schools. He's trying to take voting rights away. He's overturning people that were elected legally and fairly and firing them out of offices that they're in that's supposed to be in the government. So right now he's working in a dictatorship or authoritativeship right now and over there in Florida, and nobody's checking him. He's just doing whatever he wants to do to anybody. And if he'll do that to like money makers like Disney, and he'll do that to people who fairly been elected, imagine what he'll do to you if you ain't on his side and you on his party. But I'm not getting into politics on that side of things. But yes, they just said, if you see in here, that Bob Iger is expected to make $27 million in 2023. But yet, unrealistic is what these people are asking for. Do you really need $27 million? Do anybody in the world right now, right, need $27 million to live comfortably, to pay for a security team to protect you? I don't know. I mean, from what I've been hearing from other rich people, they've been on Fanbase. I'm not going to say no names because I don't want to draw attention to them and have them coming for me. But what they were saying, I mean, yeah, you want to go after as much money as you can. That makes sense. But I've seen a sense of integrity and dignity with these people that they're not just going to leave their people out where they're not making money. Because first of all, if you're black and making millions, you're a dime a dozen, you're an outlier. So we want more of us to have that type of bread so we can work with each other and make stuff happen. This right here is just American greed right here. Like, this is the reason why people come to America, literally, is to make this kind of money and do these type of things in the world. But it's always at the detriment of another person or another group or another faction or whatever, party, whatever. So 27 million, you can't shave off like 10 of that and get it to these people who struggling right now, you know. I mean, I don't know. But that's what he's doing. So then She-Hulk actor Tatiana Maslany slams Out of Touch Bob Iger. So let's get into it. The actor criticized Iger's comments, claiming striking workers were being unrealistic. Now, I did not like the She-Hulk show, but she does have a point with what she said. So let's continue. So last week, Rep. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez took part in the picket lines alongside SAG-AFTRA and Writers Guild American members who are continuing to strike, encouraging workers to hold their own while blasting executives such as Warner Bros. Discovery, David Zaslav, and their insatiable greed, joining AOC She-Hulk star Tatiana Maslany, who took the opportunity to publicly slam Disney CEO Bob Iger for his distasteful comments about the striking workers. In a surprising turn, which is out of step with usually switched on Iger, the House of Mouse chief described the striking workers as very disruptive and added that the level of expectation workers have at receiving fair pay for third hard work was, in fact, not realistic. Let me repeat that. Workers have at receiving fair pay for their hard work was, in fact, not realistic. Iger remarks have been widely discredited, and not least by Hollywood stars like Bryan Cranston, who unleashed fire fury on Iger at the recent event. However, Maslany's comments are all the more notable given she currently contracted to Disney and appeared in one of the year's biggest projects of for the company. And she said, I think he is completely out of touch. He's completely out of touch with workers who make his show happen, who make people watch these shows, who bring viewers to him and his money. Having worked on a Disney show, I know where people fall through the cracks and where people are taken advantage of, and it's outrageous the amount of wealth that is not shared with the people who actually make the show. That's crew, cast, writers. As noted by Collider, Eric Maciato, Iger's stance is unusual. One highlights the chasm between human relations and shared greed. The Writers Guild recently issued a memo to streaming platforms and studios providing a detailed breakdown of an annual cost that it would be to incur by companies if they were to implement the proposed changes by writers. Specifically, in the case Disney agreeing these terms would result in an estimated annual cost of $75 million. This figure amounts to less than half of the budget typically allocated for producing a movie like The Little Mermaid. Iger is poised to maintain his position at the helm of entertainment giant until 2026, and a surprising turn of events in late 2022, Iger made a dramatic return to CEO role after the sudden unexplained departure of then CEO Bob Chapek. We know he got fired. Dude was trash. He wasn't running the company right. And all the people in there that were stockholders and major execs in Disney were tired of him and his antics. Him and his whole regime, because it wasn't just him that was causing issues as well with all this woke stuff and not focusing on the story. And then on top of that, you're not really doing good on the business side of things, focusing on streaming when you should have been focused on your box office. So However, he will have an awful lot of work to do to build up goodwill once more when the strike comes to an end and the workers are given their equitable share of residuals along with guarantees that will safeguard them in future against the threat of artificial intelligence in the filming process. So, yes, AI is a threat. It's a threat to a lot of people's jobs, especially people who work in VFX effects and background actors and stuff like that. They're basically trying to get computers to even do the writer's job. They want to use it to basically plagiarize and create something that didn't come from humanity, basically, right? It has to come from a human for it to be legitimate writing work, I feel like. And that's how it was taught to me in college when you learn, writing in college or whatever, that's what that is, right? When you're writing a work, if it's written by a human and you haven't copied it from somebody else or grabbed it from somebody else, you got it from yourself. You might have been inspired by somebody, but it has to come from you for it to be a creative work. So I think there should be laws on AI to keep this stuff from happening, and so people don't lose their jobs and people can keep feeding their families and stuff like that, and stuff remains original. Other thing is, like, 75 million, they said, is the cost it would cost a year to implement all of the different things that they're asking for. Disney makes billions of dollars, and not only do they make billions of dollars, I mean, they have, I guess you could say, like, a monopoly on the industry. So they can pull that money from somewhere. Then again, the CEO is making expected to make 27 million, I think it was, or 26 million. If he gave up 10 of his salary, that could go into that 75 million, and then you just keep figuring out other ways to fix stuff. Maybe they might have to regress the budget on the movies or whatever. So at the end of the day, all of this is just bad because, like I keep saying, like, this is the American dream in full display versus, like, what's realistic if we want to go that route. People got to eat. People got to have money to pay their bills. People got to do stuff. Or you end up like this brother right here, unfortunately, Billy Porter, who has to sell his home because he relies on these checks to pay his bills and stuff like that. He not no CEO of a company, which is a very small number of people who can say that they make that much money in a company. Like, very few people can say that. And it gets even smaller when you're talking about businesses that make millions of dollars or billions of dollars and stuff like that, and your cut somewhere in there or whatever. And so it's just sad that this is going on. This is all everybody's talking about right now. There's nothing to really talk about because everything is getting delayed because of this mess right here between basically the Writers Guild and everything else. So I mean, I don't know what to tell anybody as far as, like, just make your own stuff. I mean, Tubi's been something that's becoming pretty big lately because it's basically uncut, you know what I'm saying, and you can go in there and make whatever you want to create. Now, on the other end, though, this stuff is making a way for Tubi to happen, right? You're going to start seeing more and more independents come out and do their own thing. Fanbase is also a good place to do that as well, because Fanbase is growing and the functionality is growing as well, where you can put your show like it is on Netflix or something. Another example would be like Red Table Talk. You can literally make a Red Table Talk type of business structure on Fanbase right now as we speak. You got the subscribing system. You have Fanbase on web now that has a search engine. I'm going to cover that in my next tutorial video talking about Fanbase. You also have many different ways to connect to people outside of just that, right? To promote your business, because now you have flicks. So now you can make flicks just like you do on all these other networks and stuff. I mean, social media apps, and you can do what you need to do on there to promote your show. So literally, you have all the different tools you need to monetize and to put your work out. And it's just growing, because the next thing they're going to do is they're going to have live streams where what I'm doing right here on OBS can be done with gaming, and then I'll take that and I'll be gaming on Fanbase soon. So as soon as the live streams on there start, I'm going to be gaming. I'm going to still do the podcast. I'm still going to be doing Swift Talk when that comes out. Then I'm still debating on what the first Swift Talk is going to be about, because it's supposed to be like a 10-minute or less video on whatever that's trending. News, music, sports, whatever, like whatever's trending, and if it kind of segues into nerdom, I'm gonna talk about it and give my thoughts on it or whatever, and maybe read a little bit of an article, but not really the whole thing, and then talk about it and then move on from there. So that's gonna be coming out, because at the end of the day, I mean, I'm not the only creator out here that's having this issue right now, but there's literally nothing to talk about. I checked the internet before I started this podcast and recording it, and there was nothing to talk about other than the Montgomery, Alabama brawl and this. Now, there are some things that are coming out in this period of time that will kind of have a little bit of something to talk about. There is another con going on. Dragon Con in Atlanta is about to happen, so I'll be doing that. But this actor strike is kind of hurting a lot of things, because no one's allowed to promote their films right now. No one's able to go to certain events and stuff like that. So, I mean, some of these cons, they was talking about they was going to have people, and then the people didn't even show up to their table. And we're like, what the heck? You know, and this was in some of the most expensive cons, like San Francisco Comic-Con and all that stuff. The only actors you probably would have saw there were like C-list and D-list actors and stuff. You might have had a couple of B, you know, but I really want no A's there. The ones that's making millions and stuff, or that's in these big budget films. You're not seeing them like that. So it's gonna be bad right now. Like I said, right now, if you're a creator, I would say just focus on what's trending. Try to diversify yourself. I'm all about building creators and helping creators out. Like I said, and then for this room, it's $4.99 a month. It's 125 hearts if you don't want to subscribe and you just want to come in every now and then. If you like the topic, that's fine as well. All your support goes into helping this channel grow, helping us go to different places and do events and network with you guys and bring that networking back to you, because we have a lot of knowledge in the group that we're in and stuff like that. And so I'm gonna go ahead and close with this as far as with the writer strike and stuff. Basically, support the writer strike. Make sure that you don't go watch any movies that I guess you could say on streaming or even in the box office that feeds into this monster, right? You want them to be hurt on their pockets too. Now, some of these movies you have to see because they are already struggling. Any DC movie that comes out, all you DC heads, make sure you go and see Blue Beetle and all that stuff. I'm not going to tell you not to go watch that stuff because they need it. Like, DC needs the bumps. And I like the way that looks, so I'm going to go see Blue Beetle, and then we'll talk about that next week. The Ahsoka show, it got a black lead in it. You got to go and watch that. Be strategic on what you're watching. It has to be something that is impactful to the culture, right? The reason why these two are impactful for the culture because they're both featuring Latinos, and when one has a black Latino that's in costume as an alien. Either way, you got to support black and brown people, so we have to go ahead and watch that or whatever. That is the thing, because we don't want them to show them that we don't care about black and brown stuff. we do want that to happen. Now, other stuff like Oppenheimer and Barbie and all of that other stuff, I skipped out on all of that because that's right when the strike was going on. And I was like, I'm not watching nothing. I wanted to see Oppenheimer so badly to see what all the hype was about. I wanted to see Barbie. But at the end of the day, I realized if I go in there and spend my money, that's just going to prove to them that us, the consumers, don't care about the strike. And we can help as well through our dollars by telling them, hey, we're not going to buy your movies if you don't come to the table and make some compromise for them. We'll pay the extra money. I mean, inflation's already up. I mean, just add more to the bill. Screw it. And then also support your independents. That's the main. If you take anything from this video, support your independent films. Every last person, including Tyler Perry. I know he be having them wigs that don't look right. But yes, make sure that you do that. And the last thing I'm going to leave you with as well is make sure that you donate to the fund for the people who need help in this union or whatever, in the writer's strike or whatever. Make sure you send that. I don't even care if it's $5 or something. After you leave this video, send something, because at the end of the day, I got friends that are actors. We know actors that are on Fanbase. Like, I met some of these actors, and some of them saying they wouldn't even get no work or nothing. So, and they working regular jobs, blue collar jobs, like me. Like, they, some of them just regular people who were in a, very popular show, and they not making they not making like 50K plus. Like, I make more than some of these people that's acting in some of these shows. Not trying to be funny, but I mean, I be out here hustling in different industries and stuff, not necessarily all in the entertainment industry. I'm just really getting into it, but yeah, like, everybody ain't rich that's in Hollywood, and music either. Which I'm surprised that music ain't out here, them industries ain't out here having people, come out and say stuff. But they figured out a way to make themselves independent as well. So like I said, support the independents, send some donations to help people out, and like I said, don't support the films that helped basically the pocketbook or doesn't push the needle forward for black and brown people. If you're black and brown, or if you support black and brown people, whatever, don't watch those movies that feeds into the monster, right? Only watch the ones that help the needle go forward with progression and things that, don't already get the attention that it needs. Outside of that, hey, I'm on your side as far as the actors and stuff go, especially writers and stuff, because I'm writing my own comic book. I'm definitely on board. I just want to see where this goes, and I hope it all works out and that nothing like this ever happens again to someone like Billy Porter who lost his home. I don't want to see stuff like that. That triggers me, right? That makes me want to get out there with the sign and be like, hey, you know what I'm saying? Like, pay these people. And I ain't even an actor yet, because I'm looking into voice acting. So everybody have a great day. Appreciate you all listening to this podcast episode. This is Swift Streams PC, and we'll see you on the next episode.